Hi again, it's Penny. Today I wanted to talk to you about art journals and just the basic journals before you ever put paint in them, because I know that's one of the biggest questions we all have when we first begin. And most of us that have been doing this for a while have segued through a lot of different art journals to find what we like best. So I think the easiest way to do this for you today is just to put the camera over my table and go through them and show you some of my early pages so that you feel good about where you're starting because they're rough, and that's fine. I had the most fun. There are some pros and cons to different journals, and I'm going to try to point those out for you. I will list the products that I've used in the description below the video, so check those out. And I'll try to talk about them. There's a couple that I'm not really sure. I've painted over everything, including the covers, and so I'm not really sure what brand they are, but I think you'll enjoy the journey because it has been a journey, and then maybe it'll help you see where you might can go with all of this. All right, stay tuned. Here we go. Okay, so here we go. This is the first one I ever started working in. I would love to tell you the brand, but I simply do not know. I probably got it from someplace like Michael's. The pages in it are like cardstock, if you know what that is. Okay, it's the thicker paper. It's not watercolor paper, so there's buckling and all of that involved inside of here. So just be warned, but that doesn't bother me because I kind of like messy journals. But I did move on from here. But I did want to show you some of my first pages because it's fun. I mean, I was learning what to use, what I liked, metallic paints, tissue paper that was kind of had a sheen to it. I was drawing faces. This is just a lot of magazine pictures collaged. I learned to do different little things like tags with little brads in it, and little makeshift pockets. I tend to like those kinds of pages. I'm not doing that right now in my current art journal, but I might get back to that because I do like that. Very rough, but I was just checking to see, for instance, what I had to do on most of these pages that I added a lot of paint to is I had to use gesso. Okay, so gesso was like white paint with more body, and it'll prepare the pages a little bit better and keep them from warping quite as much. To do that layer first, or a couple of layers even, and let it dry in between. So sometimes I wrote in it, sometimes I didn't. Again, just collaging a whole bunch of papers, seeing what I like, magazines, photos that I did. So this was all when I was brand new, using photo corners, stamped images. Again, I didn't have access to a whole lot of different supplies, but you can do a lot with magazines, with pictures and with wording. You can just cut out the letters individually and do headings. My dad had passed. I have a lot of pages and even a whole book sort of dedicated with more of his stuff. So just a quick flip. So I was just playing around mainly with whimsical type figures, just learning, you know, to play with paint, some pastels, collage. I owned a coffee shop at the time, and these were the colors I put in the coffee shop, so I put the paint swatches in here. This is one of my favorites. Does this crown make my head look big? I think my daughter did that one. Yep, to mommy. Oh, now I love this even more. This was a band that came and played at the coffee shop one night. And I couldn't even tell you what some of this is. I think I did the sketches, and then I just did some type of paint around it. So, and this is what happens when you start upside down. Oops. Don't worry about it. I practiced drawing different faces, colored some in, left some as they were. This is the actual color of the pages that were in this book. They were kind of an oatmeal, and I think I used colored pencils. So if you have a book that, you know, doesn't have watercolor paper in it and you don't feel like doing gesso and preparing the pages like you would have to, then you can always do colored pencil, and it will let you, I believe that, yeah, that's colored pencil. So, yeah, just playing. Just playing, okay? So, the next book I used was Moleskine. Moleskine, I forget how you're really supposed to pronounce it, but here we tend to call it Moleskine. Again, it's heavy cardstock pages, a little bit heavier than that book was. And when I started this one, I was doing sketching, ideas for things I wanted to do or make. I played around with, I think this is colored pencil. This was one thing I did like about this size. It was small enough to take with me. So I remember the day I was playing with this. I was stuck in a waiting room somewhere just waiting, and I had a ballpoint pen in my purse, and I had this book. And so that's the nice thing about this size book. Okay, now it'll take, again, I did mostly sketching for this book, but I did do some paints. But if you do, you're going to have to prepare your page. Now this one, I think I used a water brush with very little water, but I can feel this page buckling. I didn't prepare it with gesso or anything first. This is colored pencil. So it takes colored pencil really well because I got a lot of shading and everything in this one. So anyway, that's a Moleskine. They come in a lot of different sizes. I don't know if this one says the size on it. No. The nice thing is they have a pocket in the back, so you can save things that you may want to use in your art. Oh, this was what I took the first drawing from. That's kind of nice. So you can save things back in there. You can also build these into your own sketchbook if you want as well. So we might do that on a future project. So that's the Moleskine, and you can get them as big as this right here. They're huge. Now, this is a Strathmore Field watercolor book. Now, what's interesting about this is you will have just a simple page before you'll have a watercolor page. Now, what that does, though, is it protects the pages from each other, okay? So you can just use it to protect pages, or you can use it like I did to do little sketches and make use of it. So this, I didn't do it on that one. Sometimes I would, I guess, clip whatever I was going to be taking from to do the page with. So yeah, I use this. It has pretty substantial paper, so on the watercolor pages you can get messy and creative, and it stays, you know, pretty. It's really thick. It's really good watercolor paper. So I can tell you what it is right quick. It is 140 pound watercolor, and then 60 pound sketch paper in between. Okay, so that was pretty cool. I like that book. Now this one, this has an interesting story. Somebody gave me this book many, many years ago. It was called, I've never read it. It was called The Parson's Daughter. Well, my dad was a minister, so she thought of me and gave me this. And then I had a friend who had the saw and the ability to cut me a shape from it, because I wanted to turn this into basically an altered book, or you can call it an art journal, whatever you'd like. And this was one I wanted to do, you know, with my dad in mind. And so I didn't fill it up. And these are fun to do, but I will tell you that when you start doing altered books, they are a little bit more tedious, okay? But you can do a lot of different things with them. For instance, if you want a body, you know, you think about it, these pages are pretty thin, right? So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to glue a number of pages together. Now, when you do, you can do some fun things like cutouts, and then I was going to put something here that you would see and paint these pages. So it's a project, and I really need to get this back out and do a little bit more because I really liked it. But it's not as easy as just sitting down and playing with paint right away. It's a little bit different type of project, but fun. And I consider these art journal too. It's expressing yourself with art, and it's in a book form. It's an art journal. Okay, now I have just a few more. This and this are made by Canson. Now this is watercolor tablet. This is one that I do and pull out pages to do individually. When I want a bigger surface just to play with. I'm trying to see. Flip through. Okay, here's some in the back. So these are some that I've done. And the intention when I started these was that I wanted to get them all together, do all of these, and then bind them somehow. But then here's my issue. I didn't want to put holes in it to bind it. So I have just left them in this state inside of this. And maybe one day I'll fix up, you know, the front and the back of this thing and to make an actual portfolio. So you see these pages were done down in 2016. I know you're having to kind of look sideways, so I'm turning them for you because I know I enjoy flip-throughs of other people's work. It's just fun. Okay, so these are Canson watercolor. This is their watercolor pad. It is cold press, 140 pounds. This is Canson mixed media book. And it doesn't have really thick pages. So there's a lot of buckling if you don't use gesso under it. But I like the fact that they're serrated here. So these can be torn out and framed if you like what you do. That's kind of a cool thing. And they will stand up to a good bit. Lots of different papers and glues and gesso and paint. So, yeah, this I like the Canson series. I think it's cool. But my favorite right now are the Jane Davenport journals. And the reason is the paper is just wonderful in it. And it has a canvas cover that you can later paint when you're off. I'm going to wait till I'm all got it full, and then I'll paint my cover. And we'll do a video on that one day. This is the first one I started with. It's her larger size. And, whoops, upside down. And I'm just going to flip through right quick just to kind of show you some of this. I haven't finished the title page, but you don't have to have a title page. So it's a really good grade. I think I did this with water brushes. And, of course, the Jane Davenport, I was playing with her bright palette that I'd gotten. That was the first watercolor palette I got of Jane's, and I loved it. So all her skin tones and everything, there were no skin tones in that palette. But she does have beautiful skin tones in the neutral palette. But I was starting with one at a time. And I like what you can do without having realistic type skin tones. Because, you know, depending on where we are, there's all kinds of colors in our faces depending on the lighting. So some that I've sketched and haven't done quite yet. That was my sweetie when he was a little boy. That's from an old picture. I haven't finished her yet. Somebody said she looks evil. Yeah, until you put the eyes in, they tend to. My sweet daughter-in-law. These were just watercolor painted. This is more mixed media, different pieces of paper, magazine. She's done with, I can see it on my hand, so I know I did some pastels with her. This was done with watercolor paint, but the background was collaged and some little magazine pieces on top. Practicing little faces. This is from a picture online. That was colored pencil. This is a little bit of everything. I wrote on the page first about, I think I put like a lot of my fears down, and then I did an art page over it. So that was very therapeutic. Watercolor again. My daughter tends to get in a lot of mine. Another picture from the internet. These are just sketches. My daughter again, playing around with some Jane Davenport type figures from her books. Again, playing with Jane Davenport there. These are from journal prompts that I did with the Jane Davenport Facebook group, and there was something different every day, and they were mermaid themed, as you can tell. This is what a mermaid might look like later on. It was just a fun book to play with, and it takes a lot of different, another internet image, a friend's granddaughter that I haven't finished yet. So it takes a lot of different types of media, which I love, because I tend to put a lot of different stuff in mine. So these, yeah, these are now my favorite. And I highly recommend them because you don't have to do anything to prep your pages. And I really like just to delve in and get going. I really do. So there you go. If you have questions about any of this, though, please, please, please comment. Make sure you subscribe and hit that little bell so that you can be notified of my future videos. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.